Thank you. Welcome, everybody, family, friends, principals, people from afar. I would like to, I have to take a roll call first.
Ellsworth,
Here.
Liker,
Here.
Lopez Aguino,
Here.
Medina,
Here.
Quinones.
Here. Next, I would like to recognize principals from, I'm gonna get it wrong, Berry and Bayside, of course, to bring up their students to help us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Principals, could you introduce your students and recognize their families?
Yeah, we'd like the parents from Max and Adrian Lee to please stand. We want to recognize you guys. And we're going to meet you back right over here to take some photos in front of your school's bulletin board.
Yes, the paparazzi moment. Thank you, Adrian and Max. I would like to recognize the principal from Berry School, Joseph Rosapio.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Executive, Cabinet, my awesome Berry teammates that came to support today. And all the community members, thank you. My name is Joe Prosapio. I'm the new principal for the Berry Bear community. Brene Brown says, when we have the courage to walk into our story and own it, we get to write the ending. Tonight, I get to share a small snapshot of the Berry Bear story. These are the numbers of the students we serve. I could read all the numbers to you, but I believe numbers really don't tell the story of students. So the first day of school at our kickoff, I printed out this photo and I showed it to the team and I said, this is who we serve. Berry is a very typical community school. Berry sits square in the middle of the people we serve. There's a large apartment complex right across the street where several of our students and families live and come from, and then the surrounding area. Now, I may not have the borders just right, but we made some estimations, and the Berry team is really digging in to figure out how do we dig deeper to figure out exactly who we are serving and how to serve them better. Our 21-22 math dashboard results show that we fell as all students into the very low category, with a couple of excuse me, subgroups falling into the low category, and that would be English learners, economically disadvantaged. For English on the 2021 dashboard, our results show that the excuse me, students overall as a whole fell into the low category. The Berry teachers and team has done a lot of work in reading and writing over the past couple of years, which are starting to show results catching up, which is pushing those students up into at least the low category with only a 60-point difference to push up to the next standard. And we decided to continue that reading push this year and focus on our reading and our small group instruction and reading, which brings us to our site plan goal number 1. Ensuring academic excellence. There's a couple things that I would like to highlight on this slide. One is our impact teacher. Initially, we had an impact teacher that I believe was set up to work about 80 days. We had fantastic feedback about how well she was working with our newcomer students, helping them learn English and then helping them start the reading process in English. We had some monies that we were able to go to the site council with, and we've actually recently added 41 more days. So we were able to get that impact teacher support through May 18th, which will bring us through the testing period of time. And that way really support those small, younger students or our incoming students that are working on learning English. And our 2 general education instructional assistants, they're part-time instructional assistants. We were able to find a couple of people to hire for 2 part-time instructional assistants, and they were pivotal in being able to work in small groups, work with our teachers, and work in our combo classes to be able to help differentiate instruction. Both of those were pivotal in really working this year and helping us reach some academic excellence. A couple other things and action steps we took to support goal number 1. We understand that if the kids aren't in the seats, then they can't learn. So around October, November, we really started focusing on attendance. We have classroom trophies that once a month we pass them around. Students and teachers, we announce, bring the trophy, and then the class with the best attendance gets to keep the trophy for a month. Classes with the best increase in attendance get a trophy. And then all the kids and the teacher get a keychain with a little thing on it, and you can collect a keychain. So we really started a push in November. We recently had some parent meetings that were very well attended, and we're already starting to see some results for that. And the other thing I wanted to highlight is our Classroom Buddies program. I could have printed about 19 pictures for this because it's pretty much one of the cutest things you'll ever see in your life. Is our 4th, 5th, 6th graders. They go into the kindergarten classes and work with the younger students, and both sets of students love when they do this. The 6th graders were helping the kids learn about pumpkins, and then they go in different times and it's really, really kind of cool to see. Our site goal for number 2, as far as advancing equity and inclusion. Again, we're working a lot on trying to work in equity. We have a co-teaching inclusion model that we work in the upper and lower grades. And what I want to highlight here is our teachers really do a fantastic job in their classrooms of bringing in those cultural awareness lessons, bringing in the lessons about how different cultures have impacted society, the positive things that have been being done. They work really hard to do that. I saw lessons in kinder, I've seen lessons in 6th grade, and they really do a fantastic job of bringing in that culturally diverse backgrounds and saying, here's who's impacting our society. And I also wanted to thank Mr. Espinosa that did a student listening committee at some point. And while random, it was a completely random draw. One of our students with an IEP that happens to be in our C's program was one of the draws. And I have a 27-year background in special education. And one of the things that has kind of been a professional growth opportunity for me to push is that they often don't have a voice. And oftentimes our students with IEPs don't have a voice. So the fact that one of our students got to come and speak and talk with the superintendent, and we got really a fantastic picture of that, was very inclusive. And I really appreciated that. For goal number 3, as far as nurturing a safe and welcoming environment, we have caring school communities that is across our whole community. All the teachers use that. We do morning meetings. You can see a photo here. We actually were using the social emotional TOSA was there that day, and she was kind of leading and coaching and teaching. So trying to use those TOSAs for the best work to do our morning circles. We have a agreement and with South Bay Community Services to give our kids counseling. So we're working on trying to figure out how to expand that. Oftentimes students are stuck on waiting lists and whatnot, but it's a great service, and lots of our students were able to get some therapy and counseling services. And I really got to point out this bottom left corner picture is a picture from our extended learning opportunity program. We had a theater program. Barry's got a fantastic stage and lighting and sound system. So we had a theater program come on. What they were doing is acting out the book Where the Wild Things Are. So I think this picture was right in the middle of the wild rumpus. I'm not really sure, but that was always my favorite part as a kid and my favorite part to read to my children. So they really did a great job, and it was fantastic to see that as far as having that welcoming extra program. A couple of extra activities that we're doing to support goal number 3. We have pushed for a school-wide expectations. It's something that I brought over. I mean, in Chula Vista, you can't walk through schools without seeing some banners and posters, and this is what's expected on our campus. And I wanted to bring that to Barry. We worked as a team. We discussed acronyms and whatnot. This is kind of something that was close to me because it translates from English to Spanish with both words, both corresponding to RISE. So it's really helpful for our multilingual learners. So we've hung banners up. We kind of did a soft rollout talking about the skills and what it looks like and what these characteristics are. Recently, last week, we had a spirit week and an attendance push week. So we started pushing out our Rise Caught Rising Up tickets, which will now come into play monthly. As you're showing those expectations, you can earn tickets. They go in a drawing, and we're going to start pushing those Rise expectations. We also have a couple other side gigs. We have actually Miss Stephanie in the back is like Miss Stephanie extraordinaire back there. She loves the spotlight. She loves when we talk about her, but she decided on her own she would like to start a clothing bank for our community. So she went out, started collecting clothes. So if anyone has any clothes at any size, and he said, and we decided this is something we can do for our community, and we had getting it going, and we're starting to get that set up where if, hey, you need a jacket, you need something, come, you can do some clothes. And we have some visions for where that might go in the future. We're working on our kindergarten area. That's an area that's really near and dear to my heart. It's a lot of DG and some grass and some play area. Over spring break, we are supposed to get a room tore out of our kindergarten area that is old and just needs to be removed, which is right in the front of our school. So that should get torn out. The facilities is going to be planting grass for our kids to play on. And then we are working on building a garden. We just believe that welcoming and nurturing environment starts with how things look and how things feel. So we've kind of upgraded our office a little bit, bringing in some student art. And I love these pictures of just our team sitting and talking with children, because that's really what it's all about. So, I didn't switch my page. I apologize. So we're beginning to own our story, as Brene Brown was saying. And while we haven't quite written the end of the story yet, we're well on our way to trying to create a positive impact in our community. So thank you for listening. Are there any questions?
Any questions?
Welcome, Berry School. Welcome, staff, principal. Welcome. Berry is one of my area schools that I represent. So I'd like to acknowledge and shout out the work that your team and community do to support Berry and the work for children. Thank you all, including the secretary answers the phone. Okay. Been there, done that. I did visit Berry School a couple of months back, and you spoke about that trailer. So I'm shocked that it's still there. I'm shocked it's still there.
It's quite a process. There's a lot of environmental things that have to be done. They have to check lots of different things. It is quite a process that I know facilities has had to work on for quite a while. There's air conditioning and
Yeah.
piping and different things that all have to be cleared to get that remote. And plus, you can't really do it on school student days, and so they're waiting for a break. and
What
whatnot.
I was most impressed with was the green environment and the excellent work that our landscapers do, especially at Berry, where the grounds were left to actually die. So kudos to our landscapers because there's grass and there's a playground full of grass, and you've had some athletic teams like soccer, I think it was, that you were developing back then, and the blacktop. That's all work that maintenance provides to our schools. And I want to give them a big shout out that Berry is beautiful because of the teamwork. Thank you so much. I was looking at the paperwork. I just had a quick question about your attendance, and we're always working on attendance, but I was hoping to get some numbers about your attendance. Are we on an upscale or are we still struggling?
Last month to this month, I believe we went up like about a 1.6 or 1.7%. Looking from last month to this month, because we just celebrated at the end of February. So we looked overall at that. I believe it went from I believe it's about a 1.6 or 1.7% increase. And that was, and I believe February was up from January, so they're not giant increases. One of the things I talked to the team, and we have a morning meeting every day with the whole team, all the students are on the blacktop. I said, if we can move up to almost 89%, we could get it over 90. So we were like, come on, March is only 2 weeks. We can, let's make a big push. And so we had that week where I said, everybody gets a ticket if you're on time and in line. So we had a big push. So I kind of set the goal to say, let's get over the 90 mark. So we are on a slight uptick.
Well, that makes me so excited. Again, thank you so much for coming this evening, and thank you to your staff and everybody that supports student learning there at Bayside Community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Berry Community. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say, it was great seeing some of these pictures. I went to Berry from first grade all the way to sixth grade. And I think it was like some of the best times of my life. Growing up in high school, my whole Berry Bear crew, the whole time were the Berry Bears all the way until our senior year of high school. So it's really exciting. What would you say is like the number one issue you guys are facing at Berry? Like the one area of improvement that you would like to see?
That's a really great question. I come from, the teaching background. One of the things that was always super important to me as a teacher was setting up my environment and what my environment looked and felt like. So I would always spend a lot of time. So in my principal view, what I do is come in and I say, what makes this environment more inviting? What makes this environment where kids say, I want to come here? So I have been working really closely with facilities, with Franco and with Laura to say, like, I want this kindergarten area to look gorgeous. I want this kindergarten, because we are right outside that fence. Well, you're very familiar with where Berry is, right? So that's what everybody sees. And so I want it to become a very inviting, pretty, beautiful area where people go, look at this school. And then on the other side, the kids have that peaceful playground look and the environment, what it looks like. So that has been kind of a focus of mine. And then the expectations are, how does it feel? So I believe COVID and all the things we've dealt with, there's a lot of social emotional challenges in schools right now. And so again, for me, it's about, we need to make our school feel better. And I think kids are kind of humming at a little bit of a higher idol these days about lots of different things. So it's about, let's calm down. Let's feel better. Let's learn again how to communicate and be better friends. So I want the place to look nice, feel good, feel welcoming, and then work on those kid-to-kid interactions with each other.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. I taught kindergarten, I think in that portable that's
trailer?
going to be, that's going to be taken down. But I loved my time at Berry, and I love how there's the children's artwork in the office. That way that the families can walk in and see that it's all about the kiddos. And the clothing bank, I think, is an amazing idea. Thank you. putting that together. And like you said, just creating an environment where they want to be there, they feel safe, they feel taken care of in all aspects of their life and supported. So thank you for all you're doing. Thank you all for all you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Prosapio, and the rest of the Berry Bears.
Thank you.
Wait a minute, I have to introduce you. Bayside STEAM Academy Principal Kevin Court and
They'll be, yeah,
staff back
they'll
there,
join us.
they're hiding behind the podium. I
They're
can't
part
see
of
very
us.
many.
President
Welcome.
Ellsworth, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Espinosa, Executive Team, community members, and a warm welcome to all of our Bayside staff and families that have joined us this evening. Oh, Okay. Bayside STEAM Academy, it's a place where we play with a purpose and we learn by doing. It's a place where we are preparing our scholars for the future, and the future is now. And for some, this is about ending generational poverty. And we do this by two things. We have two goals that we focused on last year and this year, and all of our resources, time, and energy go to meeting kids where they are and moving them forward and building student connections and relationships. And we do this with South Bay's finest, who give their very best to our community every day. Teaching and learning is rooted in relationships. Our teachers are more than just delivering effective lessons. They are mentors, they are coaches, they are healers, they are facilitators, and they are an endless supply of inspiration. LCAP Goal 1, ensuring academic excellence, is about meeting students where they are and moving them forward. And we do this by using timely, accurate, and valid assessment data so that we know where they are and we know what they need. We have school-wide commitments, at least 2 small reading groups per day, every day, and collaboration time for teachers to work together to review data and use that data to inform their instruction. Because we know success happens when students receive what they need in an environment where they feel connected and valued. Now to take a look at a slide from 2016, it's hard to see, but if you look, you'll see Bayside STEAM Academy, the lowest performing school in our district, with 14% of our students at grade level in ELA and 13% of our students at grade level in math. We're happy to report that right now, the 2022 SBAC results, we went from that 14 up to 29, so over 100% growth. And it's for the first time in over a decade that Bayside is above the district average. Looking at the 2022 SBAC's results in math, we went from that 13% up to 19%. That's a 46% growth. And we look back to that 2016 slide where we were the lowest performing school in the district to now, where we're happy to announce that we're the #2 elementary school in ELA and math on the 2022 SBAC. We decided to look at this SBAC data a little bit deeper, and we looked at what happened with the pandemic. What was that pandemic effect? 2019 is the last time we took that test, and then we took it during distance learning, but we're really looking at 2022. Bayside grew 4 percentage points. To put that into perspective, 40 out of 42 school districts in San Diego all performed worse after the pandemic. Understandably so. Bayside went up. We went from 25% in 2019 up to 29%. That's that 4% growth. And again, to add perspective to that, San Diego County went down 4%. The entire state of California went down, but due to the hard work and dedication of our faculty, we went up. Goal 3, looking at that learning, that welcoming learning environment. We know, again, when students feel connected and they have a sense of belonging, they're less likely to act up and act out. Pre-pandemic, we had 148 Tier 2 office referrals. The adults in the organization have an unconditional regard for the well-being of all of our students. And we're happy to report so far to date this year, we've only had 20 Tier 2 office referrals representing an 84% decrease in off-task behavior. There is no rigor without joy. And here you see a group of first graders, first grade authors, sharing their stories with one another. Bayside's a place where you have big kids helping little kids to become big kids themselves one day. A place where Bayside scholars, we see you, we see your potential, and we see your power. And we work every day so that you can step into that power. Advancing equity and inclusion. Our world needs more creative problem solvers. We need more critical thinkers. In this slide, you see 3 fourth grade girls working on a robotic build, and they're looking at a manual that they're reading. And for some students in this picture, that manual lexile level is higher than their reading level. But because of the comprehensible input, the hands-on activity, and the high motivation, they're able to access this reading. San Diego is the 3rd largest employer of STEAM jobs in the country. Right now, there's 1.5 million STEAM jobs available. STEAM is essential. It's essential in our community. It's essential at Bayside and in South Bay. There's an equity piece there about preparing our kids and exposing them to what's out there in the world. Right now, the top 10 college majors all include science or engineering. And those same top 10 majors, they're the highest paid and they're the most sought after for jobs. There's a big discrepancy with women in engineering and computer science. And what the research says is that 95% of the girls that don't take a computer science or an engineering class in high school will not take a class in college. And if they don't take a college course, they're not going to have that as a career. So how do we break that cycle? We get kids excited about computer science and engineering now so that they can take a course in high school and give themselves a chance to take that in college. It's hard to be what you can't see. These are teacher-led exploration times. These are our submersible engineers. We're going to bring up 2 of those in just a moment. These are our sustainable STEAM activities that are directed with hands-on learning that's relevant and that transfers. It's amazing what you can do when you need a nightlight and you have ping pong balls and LEDs and a glue gun. Restoring the coastal habitat around our school with salt marsh plants. We've got some future IA consultants, and I leave you with this. When you think to the traditional honor roll student that may have been in our day, they were good at a couple things. They were good at memorizing content, following directions, and performing repeat operations. And that's exactly what artificial intelligence does. We are preparing our scholars for the future, not to be replaced by it. Thank you. With that, I'm going to bring up some of our 6th grade submersible engineers to take you through what they've built.
Hello, my name is Wolf Hoover and Adrian.
Hi, my name's Adrian, and we'll be talking about our submersible.
So submersible is a vehicle that can go underwater. It's like a mini submarine. And it's to search for things and do lots of things underwater. It is built of PVC pipe, which we first measured. And after measuring it, we measured it to put little dots on it. And where we put those dots is where we drill it. And drilling it, we drilled it because later on, we had to attach motors to the submersible piece for structure. And if we didn't drill those holes, then there would be no submersible that would work. And then also, the motors are made out of a battery and a canister that is drilled so we can put wiring through that canister that is attached to the battery, which is attached to a propeller. Oh yeah, Adrian, would you like to try it? Yeah. The one in the middle is to bring the submersible downwards and upwards. And the one on the left is to move it left, and the one on the right is to move it right. Then if you put the right and left one at the same time, then it will go forward. And then there's also a button on the top and on the controls that make it go backwards. Like that. Do you have any questions?
Where's the water?
Well, we haven't tried it yet, but we're gonna try it soon.
We've got to blow up our pools. Thank you, Wolf Huber and Adrian Lee. So every sixth grader goes through this process of trial and error to find neutral buoyancy. And then we set up our swimming pools and they drive them through obstacles. All right.
I've actually seen them work, so I know they
Yeah.
work.
Any questions?
I always seem to go first around here. So I'll go first. Thank you so much for coming this evening and your staff, Bayside. You do awesome work. It is well documented and that your school is one that the community should look at and want their child to attend. Miss a day at school at Bayside, you might miss a whole project. So, and one you can't make up and you just have to catch up. I started my career at Bayside and so I know that playground very well. And the school as well. And so the accomplishments over, gosh, that was at my age myself, 42 years ago. With your leadership, you could tell the way you presented tonight was so professional. Not to say that anybody else is not professional, but you're a veteran here at South Bay. And it saddens me to see your name on the list tonight to retire because students do look up to you. And not because you're tall, because you're really tall. But you do have an impact on students and it's reflective in your report, your presentation tonight, the students and families that come and your staff that come to support you. So from my bottom of my heart, I'll have to say yes tonight to your name on the list, but I really want to say no. But thank you again and for all the accomplishments. Flags. In the pandemic, I would drive by your school and I would say, oh, the grass is coming between the laminate over there by the portables. I'd tell the superintendent, oh, Bayside needs work. And so kudos again to our maintenance and landscape crew that went over there in the pandemic when we're all shuttered down to ensure that the schools were kept clean and gardened and the laminate was level and not splitting and because we were preparing for students to come back and that was a critical time and I always kept my eye on Bayside. So again, thank you so much for coming tonight and I hope you will come back before you leave us.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't know where, I'm so impressed with all of it, with the student achievement, with these amazing projects that the kiddos are doing, and they couldn't do it without you and all of the teachers and staff that guide them in that direction. Bayside is my home school, so these kiddos are my neighbors. And so I'm thrilled that they are getting to experience all these things that otherwise they would not. And the future that provides, the future opportunities that it provides for them. And, you know, I've spent a lot of time at Bayside and I'm glad to have been a part of making it the beautiful, welcoming atmosphere that it is. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, don't go. No. I need to say, you've been a breath of fresh air to that area the STEAM, the staff, everybody. You've done wonderful work over there. It's been really fun to see. I won't mention the other part. She did already. I'm a girl, right? So I'm really excited to see so many girls involved in the STEAM part. It's wonderful. Thank
Absolute
you.
pleasure. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Principal Court. And what are you guys? They're the bears, you are the. Oh, the sea turtles. Thank you, principal and sea turtles. Okay, now we're on to report of action taken in closed session. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam President. We do have a report this evening. This is kind of like my desk, so I work all over the place. So thank you for your patience. The report out from closed session this evening. Item 4, upon the motion of trustee Medina, second by trustee Lightner, and a vote of 5-0. The board took action in closed session pursuant to Education Code Section 45103 to release the following short-term classified employees. Employee numbers. Do I read the employee numbers too? Read the employee numbers? Yeah, can they? Okay. Okay. So I'll back up. Short-term classified employees, employee numbers. 616668, 611344, 621843, 649039, 643931, 635568, 518340, 652674, 645181, 167013, 482309, 480880, 532727, 437352, 642733, 652934, 342908, 226498, 531690, 648809, 480394, 648270, 635715, 643089, 611792, 464525, 500964, 644278, 618530, 628369, 652754, 125657, 648810. Effective on the date indicated on the letter served upon the probationary employee. There was 5 yeas, Ellsworth, Medina, Quinones, Liker, and Ingenio. Is that right?
This one to the record was 6266369. You need to,
Let me repeat one last number, 626396. 626369. Thank you, Mrs. Kavanaugh, wherever you are. Okay, 4th grade teacher. Okay. Let me go on. It's difficult. Report out of the closed session. Item 3. Upon the motion of trustee Lightner, seconded by trustee Medina, and a vote of 5-0. The board took action in closed session pursuant to Education Code Section 45113 to ratify the release of the following probationary classified employee, employee number 651910, effective February 28th, 2023, as indicated on the letter served upon the probationary employee. Report out from closed session. Item 2. Upon the motion of trustee Medina, seconded by trustee Igueno. Say it right. And a vote of 5-0. The board took action in closed session pursuant to Education Code Section 44954. Subsection B, to release the following temporary certificated employees, employee numbers 650182, 645792, 534586, 642734, 650602, 615886, 607267, 607270, 542975, 643076, 547429. Effective after the last date of the current school year, June 9th, 2023. The superintendent or designee shall notify the employee of the action in writing. Report out of the closed session. Item 1. Upon the motion of trustee Medina, seconded by trustee Liker, a vote of 5-0. The board took action in closed session pursuant to Education Code Section 44951 and 44929.21 to release and not re-elect the following probationary certificated administrator, employee number 248993 for the ensuing school year 2023-2024. The superintendent designee shall notify the employee of action in writing. That is my report tonight, Madam President.
Thank you very much. Are there any changes to the agenda? May I have a motion to approve the agenda as
I move
presented?
to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, thank you. I'll put a vote.
Ellsworth,
Yes. Aye.
Liker,
Yes.
Lopez Aguino,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Quinones.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
We have communications to the Board of Trustees, these plural, from Educational Leadership first.
Good evening. Good evening, President Ellsworth, Superintendent Espinosa, trustees, exec team, colleagues, and community members. This is just a quick update and a follow-up from the January meeting on the school accountability report cards. The data has been populated on the SARCs and they have been posted on the district website in both English and Spanish, and they can be found under the About tab. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh. We have part 2. Welcome.
Good evening, President Ellsworth, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Espinosa, Executive Board, and audience. I'm Lisa Salai, and I represent our DLAC, our District English Learner Advisory Committee. At our March DLAC meeting, Principal Evelyn Medina shared highlights from Nicholas Elementary. Nicholas serves 581 students, 451 of them are multilingual learners, which is about 71% of their population. At Nicholas, they offer dual language immersion from TK through 3rd grade, as well as the SEI in TK through 6th grade. Nicholas' literacy instructional focus is to have 100% of the students improve in reading fluency and comprehension by 1 to 2 DRA reading levels per trimester. Last school year, Nicholas had 5 students reclassify, and this year the number went up to 23. Principal Medina also shared Nicholas' attendance data and has implemented tiered interventions to keep attendance over 90%. It was shared that Nicholas will provide a differentiated and responsive educational experience through progress monitoring, targeted reading interventions, and effective instructional strategies for all students. Mrs. Medina shared that Nicholas continues to be a leader in Me School and ended her presentation with a wonderful video showcasing small group instruction and reading interventions. Vice Chair Graciela Nava and DLAC members read and approved the minutes. Coordinator Lisa Celaya went over our English learner census report, which is really a snapshot of one day in October. And it represents the number of Title III immigrant students. The number of English learners at that time, it was 2,789. And then I went over the acronyms, EL, which is for English learner, IFEP, which is English fluent, English proficient, RFEP, which is reclassified fluent English proficient, and then TBD, which is are to be determined. And the number of languages other than English that are represented at South Bay. So there are 12 languages represented. We have Arabic, Cantonese, Mandarin, Filipino, German, Hmong, Italian, Japanese, other non-English languages, Spanish, Turkish, and Vietnamese. Spanish, of course, is our highest representation. And then next is our Filipino population. Coordinator Lisa Saraya updated our parents on the LPAC summative. As of March 8th, we have tested 1,468 3rd through 8th grade students in the summative LPAC. And in the alternate LPAC, we've tested 27 K through 6th grade students. Coordinator Lisa Zelaya added links to the presentation for upcoming workshops. One of them is called El Sello Estatal de Biletricidad y Trayectorias para Promover el Bilingüismo, and which means it's the seal of biliteracy and trajectories to promote bilingualism. That's free for the parents that they can attend. And then we're also going to have Imagine Learning in April. We have a date. It'll be April 25th. We're going to have a morning session and then an evening session. The morning session will most likely take place at Nestor, and the evening session will most likely take place at Mendoza. I still have to talk to them. And then I also showcased the date for the 100th year anniversary for July 22nd at Nestor Language Academy. And I said that more information would follow. And then after that, our parents attended the resource fair that we had in conjunction with Reach Out to Families, and it was a huge success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, reporting team. Next up, capital projects.
Good evening. I wasn't accusing you. I was accusing Lisa, but okay. Good evening, President Ellsworth, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Espinosa, colleagues, exec team, community members. Our solar project in partnership with Forefront Power, which began in December 2019, is now complete. In operation since February 2022, 13 solar canopies and 3 energy storage systems totaling 2.7 million watts of solar energy are present throughout the district. The district's energy storage units store excess energy and kick in when the district's electrical demand is highest. This decreases the impact of peak electricity charges and reduces costs for the district even further. The solar project will provide the district with an estimated $20 million in energy savings over the next 20 years, including more than $500,000 in year one. The projected savings in 2019 was projected to be approximately $17.8 million. But the reason that the estimated increase in savings has increased, as we all know, is because SDG&E has increased their rates. Unfortunately, we've all felt that. And those rates will continue to rise. We are very proud of not only the savings, but the amount of clean electricity that is generated, which will help the district avoid over 3,000 tons of CO2, carbon dioxide emissions each year. Thank you.
Thank you. South Bay PTA Council. No report, I see. South Bay Union School District's Education Foundation. Welcome.
Hi. Good evening, President Ellsworth, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Espinosa, and other attendees. My name is Beth Gillen, and I am on the board for the Education Foundation, newly on the board. And I'm here to report that the foundation is continuing its fundraising effort, even after losing Amazon Smile. So you don't have to shop there anymore. I feel like that's going to happen. But anyway, we were thrilled to be able to provide our 2 Employees of the Year, Martha Rodriguez and Natalie Dow, with gift certificates. And we are working on other fundraising opportunities, hopefully. And we will also be working on grants in the very near future. So hopefully we'll have some good news there. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, California School Employees Association, Chapter 59, better known as CSEA, is not in the house. Southwest Teachers Association, SWATA.
Good evening, trustees, executive team, colleagues, and community members. SWATA is currently conducting site visits. Our theme is Let's Celebrate Our Wins. We are celebrating our contractual wins as well as our membership to SWATA, CTA, and NEA. We are sharing some of the benefits of being a member. Yesterday, our bargaining teams came to a tentative agreement on ESY and intercession, yay teams. We are looking forward to continuing our conversations and negotiations around the dual language programs. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to judge the Mendoza Science Fair. Thank you to SWATA member Jose Chavira and the rest of the Mendoza staff for organizing such a great event for students and their families. And thank you for inviting me to participate. I hope that everyone has a restful spring break. Remember that self-care is giving the world the best of you instead of what is left of you. So take some time for yourself. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. District Superintendent Jose Espinosa.
Thank you, President Ellsworth. Good evening, Board of Trustees, staff, and community that are with us today. I just wanted to take a quick minute. When I was reviewing the agenda, just sometimes when you are in the middle of work, you don't really you don't really comprehend everything that's going on. But as I was reviewing the agenda, reviewing some of the different projects that we have going on at our school district, I just wanted to stop and thank our staff for so much work that they're doing. I know that it's a lot, but I am very confident that at the end of the day, our students are going to benefit. So I just wanted to take a quick minute and thank all our staff. And then I also wanted to give a quick update. You may have noticed that next door, the IB, the kinder area there has been fenced off. And that is because we do have news that the playground has finally arrived somewhere. Not yet at our district, but it is close. And so we are preparing we're getting that area ready to have it installed. And we're really happy about that because this has been on back order for almost a year. I think it's going to be pretty much a year from when we ordered it to when we finally received the playground. But I know that our staff had been busy following up with them and answering all my questions about it. So I'm really glad to see that we're moving forward. The other thing that I want to put on everybody's radar is that, yes, I believe somebody mentioned that we will be doing our 100th year. Well, it's 100 plus now, right? 100 year was sometime in the pandemic. We are going to be doing a 100-year celebration and a kickoff to our school year. The date will be July 22nd. And we have a committee that is working really hard to plan that. But I would encourage everybody to put that on their calendars now because you're not going to want to miss it. We have a lot of exciting things happening, and we hope that many parents join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, we're on to public comments on non-agenda items.
There are no comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Discussion, action items, governance documents, superintendent.
Thank you, President Ellsworth. We are bringing to the board an update on some of the governance documents. And we are asking that the board for the first and final reading.
Do I hear a motion to approve the governance documents that we have read, hopefully? For first and final.
To move.
You do? Thank you. Second?
A second.
Thank you. Are there any comments? Call for the vote, please. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just one comment, Madam President. I would like to acknowledge the work that goes around in bringing the governance documents and your work as our president and to bring it forward, and the work of our staff to ensure that we step forward in compliance. Thank you again, Madam President, for bringing this forward.
We have first and second and the vote.
Ellsworth,
Aye.
Biker,
Aye.
Lopez Aguino,
Aye.
Medina,
Yes.
Quinones.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Next item is the balloting for the delegates that we send from all of the California school boards to the delegate assembly. So I would like to recognize the superintendent again.
Thank you, President Ellsworth. And at this time, we would like the board to vote for no more than 7 candidates to fill the vacant Region 17 CSBA delegate assembly seats. I believe that was in your packet.
The ballot and the candidate biographies were in the board materials.
Yes, they were. I don't have the list in front of me.
I remember one of the name, it's trustee Kelly Baker. I want to vote for her.
Would you like me to read the names on the ballot?
Please.
Okay. Whitney Antrim from Coronado, Kate Bishop from Chula Vista, Delia Dominguez Cervantes from Chula Vista, Melissa Crow from Warner, Kelly Liker from South Bay, Elba Lopez Zepeda from Sweetwater, Barbara Ryan from Santee, Rhea Stewart from Cardiff, Shad Thielman from Cardiff, Cipriano Vargas from Vista, and Katrina Young from San Diego.
So oh, good. They have it. So right now we need to choose up to 7 of those people to, send in our vote. Sure.
Alba Lopez Cepeda. You vote for her?
Why don't you do your whole,
Just pick that.
as many as, up to 7. Would that be okay? Or
No,
what do you
that's
think?
going to work if you all do the same 7, but I would say
Okay.
have everybody do 1 and then maybe go around again.
Okay, so if she recommends, Elva, then we can all agree on that or not. Okay. Okay, so Elva,
We have Elba and Leitner on deck
but
already.
yeah, let's do Elva. If we all agree, that'll be
Oh.
fine.
Second.
Oh, you don't have
No.
a second, just do we agree that we'll forward her name?
Agree.
Yeah. Okay, Elva's 1. Next. Kelly. Okay. Oh, I think we all agree. Yeah, good. You have 1? You did, Kelly? Okay, I would like to put forward. Okay, we did those 2. Whitney from, I don't remember the last name, Whitney from Coronado.
Antrim,
I'd like to put her forward. I reached out for a recommendation and got a solid Yeah, okay. Whitney then? And who is the person from Chula? Wait,
Kate Bishop.
Kate Bishop. I'll put forward her name, Kate Bishop. Yeah, okay, so that's 4. Does anybody have any other name to put forward?
Yep, Delia Dominguez Cervantes, Chula Vista.
Okay. Number 5
And I'll add Cipriano Vargas from Vista.
from Vista. 6. Okay. Do we have a 7? We don't have to. 6 is fine too. We're all good. I think we'll go with the 6. Could you read them back, please?
Whitney Antrim from Coronado, Kate Bishop from Chula Vista, Delia Dominguez Cervantes from Chula Vista, Kelly Liker from South Bay, Elba Lopez Zepeda from Sweetwater, and Cipriano Vargas from Vista.
Okay, now let's see, we need a motion to, okay, that list.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, second? Second. Okay, let's vote. Call for vote.
Ellsworth,
Yes.
Liker,
Yes.
Lopez Aguino,
Aye.
Medina,
Yes.
Quinones.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you all. Next is the matter of a board subcommittees. I'd like to recognize Superintendent.
Thank you, President Ellsworth. Tonight, we are bringing a recommendation or request to the board to create an ad hoc committee as to help us over the pandemic and within some of the leadership transition. Our district has fallen behind on some of the updates of the CSBA board of our board policies. And it's very important that we get caught up and we stay current with what those recommendations and those updates are. And so we are requesting to form an ad hoc committee where 2 board members will meet with myself and with Ms. Cooper to update the board policies and then recommend them for approval to the board in a more, just more of them at one time. That would help us get caught up, and then we can decide whether an ad hoc committee, of course, is created for, for a certain amount of time just to complete that task. But then we can go back to our normal way of updating our board policies.
Do you have an idea of what that would look like?
Yes, so we would request that we assign 2 board members or 2 board members volunteer. And then we would calendar some time to meet, the 2 board members, myself and Ms. Cooper. We would go through the updates, making sure that we all understand them, making sure that they are relevant to our district. And then we would bring them to the board on the consent calendar.
Oh, okay. Okay. Are there any other questions as to what this committee might look like? Okay. May I hear a motion to establish the ad hoc committee to look at policies first and second, to recommend? I'm messing this up. I am sorry.
I move to motion.
For the
think-
formation of the committee.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful if the motion included the board members who are going to serve on the committee.
Okay. Okay, in that case. Yes.
Madam President, I think we need a motion to say we want a subcommittee and a second, and then discussion. And then if
Then
one
vote.
were to be interested.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for straightening out my brain here. Thank you. Okay, so any ideas for the 2 members?
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought we did.
for you?
I'll second it. Okay.
So, thank you, Madam President.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, now
Yeah, now that we have a motion and a second,
we can.
we're open for
figure out
discussion.
The two people and
I'd like to nominate myself and that I've done this work for over 40 years. And I am a graduate of Masters in Governance coursework. And I think this would be something that I would really enjoy. And I'm already committed half my life to. So I would like to serve on the subcommittee, Madam President.
I have a question too. These meetings to go over the policies that are coming to us, they would be in person, on Zoom? How do you envision it happening?
We intend for them to be in person, so we would meet in my office.
Okay. Well, I'd like to put myself forward also. Since, as you said, I've been through Masters in Governance and I've been looking at these things for a while, so. Oh,
Yes,
okay.
I
All right,
thank you
calling
for
for the vote.
volunteering, both of you. I think you will both be amazing.
This doesn't mean that you don't have to read them. It doesn't mean that you can't read them. They're still going to be available to everybody to read. It's just this is hopefully something that will make it a shorter process. Okay?
Madam President, just one thing,
Yes.
for our new board members. Typically, we don't have any subcommittees as a board. I would like to revisit this in other times, that this work is very important and the role of governing is governance. And so by streamlining it by a subcommittee is not reflective of the work we all need to do in reading it. But it will help to move things forward as we get our board docs. We read them, we have questions, and we all five have questions, and we're all calling the superintendent with the same question. So with that, a subcommittee, I support the subcommittee work in this instance. And when the documents come forward, that we all read them and support them as we move forward. Thank you.
Okay, I'm calling for the vote.
Ellsworth,
Yes.
Liker,
Yes.
Lopez Aguino,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Quinones.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
And thank you, Amy, for the work you do and all the department heads who do all the reading and vetting, and thank you all. It's a lot of work. Let's see. Assistant Superintendent Pamela Montiel to help us with the 21-24 LCAP update.
Thank you. Good evening, President Ellsworth, Superintendent Espinosa, trustees, executive team colleagues, and community members. Welcome to all of our educational partners. I come before you with an update on the 23 for this year, local control and accountability plan. This evening, our LCAP update will be specifically around student progress monitoring under Goal 1. We will not have any updates under Goal 2 or Goal 3. Our update this evening around Goal 1 is ensuring academic excellence, the update on student progress monitoring. We will be specifically providing you an update related to CAS data and the dashboard. And for that, I would like to call Director Susie Chavez to the podium. Susie's department's focus on student achievement, analyzing data, and implementing effective instructional strategies is instrumental in ensuring academic excellence and the work that we have ahead of us. Last fall, we shared our preliminary CAS data with the board. Tonight, Director Chavez will share more details and specifics related to the California dashboard.
The data that you see here includes all schools within our school districts. For the students in language arts, they have received 28.94% have met or exceeded the standard in language arts. And for mathematics, we have 18.86% of our students have met or exceeded the standard for math. We do recognize that these are the results from our first year back from distance learning. However, we know that we have areas of improvement, and our goal is for continued growth and progress in the right direction. As you can see, we are steadily making progress in both language arts and in math. The 2021 school year was a year when we were all in distance learning, and 21-22 was our return to in-person learning. Even though we are showing growth here, we know there is much work that needs to be done collectively as a district with the help of all educational partners. What you see here are the results from the California School Dashboard. This year, since it is the first year back from distance learning, we only see the color purple. The reason that we're only seeing purple is because the results are indicating a status, much like a baseline of where we are starting from post-pandemic. And the goal for our students that we want them to achieve for language arts, for math, and for the English learner progress indicator is very high. For both language arts and the progress of our English learners, we have received a status level of low. In math, however, our status is very low. The following shows a breakdown of our student groups and their performance in language arts. Again, our goal is to achieve the very high status. Overall, for all of our students in language arts, they are performing at a status level of low with 70 points below standard. However, the following student groups are multilingual learners, Hispanic, homeless, socioeconomically disadvantaged, and our students with disabilities scored at the status of very low. Our Filipino student group received a status of medium, and our African American, white, and students with 2 or more races have a status of low in language arts. For math, again, the goal is very high. For all of our student groups, we are very low with 96 points below standard. Our 5 student groups are multilingual learners, Hispanic, homeless, socioeconomically disadvantaged, and students with disabilities have a status of very low on the dashboard indicator for math. Our African American, Filipino, white, and students with 2 or more races have received a status level of low. For the English learner progress indicator, we have received a status level of low with 42.4% of our students making progress towards English language proficiency. The goal is to show growth from one LP level to the next each year that a student takes the LPAC summative exam. Next, we have the indicators for chronic absenteeism and our suspension rate. Our goal in both of these areas is to achieve a very low status. We want all student groups to be very low in the total number of absences for the school year. However, we are at a status level of very high in chronic absenteeism. We do recognize that these absences reflected the guidelines that were implemented from COVID. But through the efforts that we are implementing this year to improve attendance, such as conducting empathy interviews with families, providing incentives and celebrations, phone calls, home visits from site admin and social workers are some of the ways which we hope will begin to improve our attendance for our students. For a suspension rate, however, we did achieve our goal status of being very low. Our continued efforts in the implementation of PBIS, the development of the behavior matrix, Our support staff, such as our behavior instructional assistants, our social workers, our counselors, are instrumental in helping our students to show them and demonstrate behaviors and actions that are safe, respectful, and responsible. This shows our student groups broken down by their status level. Overall, over all of our students are very high status, including our student groups that are achieving very high status, with the exception of our Filipino student population, who are at a level of high. Overall, we do have 43.2% of our students being chronically absent. For our suspension rate, our foster youth, which is a smaller representation group, has a status of high. Our white student population is medium. Our African-American students, homeless, socioeconomically disadvantaged, students with disabilities are at a low, and our multilingual learners, Filipino, Hispanic, and students with 2 or more races are at a status level of very low. So how does our status level and results from the California School Dashboard impact us? So as a district, we are now in differentiated assistance based on the following criteria. We have a very low status on both the language arts and math, and a very high status on chronic absenteeism for our 5 student groups that are listed above. As a result, we are receiving support from the County Office of Education, and currently we have 2 coaches that are supporting us and guiding us through this process. We've developed a differentiated assistance team that consists of our 2 coaches, Director of Student Support and Accountability, our MTSS coordinator, our district social worker, Director of Special Education, and myself, who meet regularly to implement the new learning that is being introduced at the county through our professional development. We do have a series of workshops and reporting periods where we need to implement the new learning and discuss next steps and analysis of the changes that are being implemented. As we continue with the differentiated assistance learning with the county, we will provide updates throughout this process for you. Based on the California School Dashboard, we have one of our schools that has a status of being in CSI, which is Comprehensive Support and Improvement. This means that Mendoza is part of the 5% of schools in California that are among the lowest performing schools that receive Title I funding. The dashboard results for Mendoza show that all students in all indicators, meaning language arts, math, LP, and chronic absenteeism, with the exception of 1, which is the suspension rate, are in very low status. Due to this classification, we have applied and will be receiving an estimated $165,090 to implement and help support efforts and changes at Mendoza. These funds are restricted and can only be spent on evidence-based interventions, strategies, and activities that are directly related to the CSI improvement plan. These funds cannot be hired or cannot be used to hire permanent staff. And again, the San Diego County Office of Education is guiding and supporting us along this process. We will start with developing a leadership team at the school site with support from myself, who will be implementing these various phases starting this school year and next year as well. And these various phases are part of the learning and the requirements from the state of California as a result of being in CSI status. And we will continue to provide you an update throughout this CSI process as well. Now, the remaining schools in our district, which include the charter schools, are in ATSI status, additional targeted support and improvement. So being in ATSI, however, does not include additional funding like the school in CSI. The reason that our schools are in ATSI is because either one or more of their student groups are at the lowest status level for all of their indicators or all but one indicator. And again, we will also be guided and supported through the San Diego County Office of Education with the requirements that we need to complete in order to be in compliance with showing growth and improvement. Our goal is to align our differentiated assistance, our CSI, and our ATSI work so that we're all collectively working on the implementation of the required expectations and process based on our status. We will continue to update you throughout the process of learning, reflecting, analyzing, and redefining and rebuilding our district and schools. We have already started to implement changes to our system that will help support our students, both academically, socially, and emotionally as well. Some of these examples include schools participating in ICANN network to decrease chronic absenteeism. We're collecting input from our general education teachers, special education staff, and language arts and math to help determine next steps. And we have learning acceleration tutors that are providing additional small group support in language arts, math, or both. And we have counselors, social workers throughout our district that have started to provide professional development. And our principal team has also received professional development around street data, which is focused on the qualitative and human aspect of data. Question.
I have a question or two. Could you go over, I'm back on the, I don't have a number. Oh, page 10.
What's the, we don't have page numbers on this? What's
Oh, it's the
topic?
English and language arts where it says goal very high and it has low, medium. Anyway, what I'd like to know is it says 70 points below standard. And my question is, what is the standard?
So there's different levels in order for a student to be able to be classified at very high or high, medium,
Right.
low, or very low. And there's a band of points within each level. So overall, for all students, they are, pretend this is the goal line. So the goal line for them to be at medium, so right now they're at low. In order for them to be at medium, they have to make progress in terms of gaining points. Well, if this is the goal, right now, there's 70 points below the standard, below the goal level.
Who sets the standard?
The state of, well, for the California, it's the state of California.
Okay, so everybody has the same
Yes,
there.
yes.
Okay, so that's like other systems we've had in place before. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And, oh, I don't remember. Anybody else have a question? Yes.
Thank you so much for pulling this data together, Noah. I'm just gonna say it's devastating. As a board member, it's devastating. As a community member, it's devastating. Children in our communities are devastated. I had this talk with principals when I go out to visit, about scaffolding up, especially after the pandemic. The kindergartners, they were like, 3 years old when they were really 5, when they came back from a pandemic. They never had that, pre-K experience. We're working really behind because of COVID. And the teachers are working really hard to teach at grade level, when in fact they're 3 years behind. If a child cannot add 3 + 2 by 3rd grade,
Going on to fourth grade, it's even going to be more difficult. And I was a child like that. I couldn't subtract until fourth grade. So you can imagine the work my teachers had to go through to get me to learn how to do times tables. I mean, to subtract, the basic subtraction. Okay, I still subtract that way. It's backwards. Okay, so we have to find a way to bring these children up to standards. And I understand about the gold line. It's like, it's the dashboard, it's the line. And we've been down here for decades, 20 years that I know of. So it's not just COVID. Okay. And I'm thankful for the superintendent's work behind the curriculum and understanding what the teachers are sharing about the curriculum and teaching what our children need to learn. But we can't teach if they don't come to school. And so I'm really grateful for the fact that you wrote on here current actions about the ICANN network partnering with the 3 schools, but I think we need this district wide. I mean, IB Charter came and said they had 37% absenteeism. I counted up the 5 schools here in IB. That's over 65% of our children that are absent in just Imperial Beach community alone. So it's no rhyme or reason why they can't put 3 + 2 and make it 5 when they're not coming to school. So we really have to invest, Superintendent, in the community part of owning their child's education and the projections that the school and teacher have for a child. The community really needs to take ownership of their child's education. We work as a team, but if the child doesn't show up, it's not going to happen. It's not. So the work behind absenteeism, not so much that, it's chronic. Yes, it's chronic, but one absent is too many absences. And we really need to work on everyday counts. So I'm devastated and I look forward to a better tomorrow. Thank you.
She reminded me of my other question. How are our numbers comparing to statewide? Are we all kind of in the same boat or?
I think that really depends on what you're measuring, what numbers you're speaking of. What I can tell you is with differentiated assistance as a district, I believe it's 35 out of 42 San Diego County districts have been identified for differentiated assistance. And I believe that the majority is because of that second indicator, which is attendance, chronic absenteeism. So we are facing the same challenges. I would say academically, we're in different places, but as far as chronic absenteeism, that is something that hit, again, 35 out of 42 districts that were identified for the same differentiated assistance as we were.
Thank you. Obviously, everybody has a lot of work to do. So thank you for yours. Any other questions? Comments?
Can I
Thank you.
can I just add that
Yeah.
in terms of chronic absenteeism, I'm happy to report that today, in fact, we finished interviews for our parent engagement and support coordinator, who a part of their, they have 3 parts of their responsibilities: community, schools. That's going to be part of it. Attendance is part of it, and parent engagement is part of it. And we're really looking forward to creating a system, a tiered system of support for attendance that we've been talking about, this year. And so we are really, making some progress there. And then we will move to hopefully hire some additional support people that are really going to look at supporting attendance and figuring out what our students need and families need so that we can get them here. We are focused on that. I know that this position, it took us a little while. We flew it a few times, but today we finished interviews, and that should be coming to the board soon.
Thank you. Thank you for your work and thank you for putting a positive spin on this. Thank you. Thank you. Oh. I think Assistant Superintendent Rigo is up. Okay.
Good evening, President Ellsworth, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Espinosa, colleagues, community members, exec team. Last month, Mark Farrell from Dale Scott and Associates provided a presentation to the board on the potential of refunding the 2012 election Series A bonds. The board provided direction to move forward with a resolution, and Mr. Farrell is here tonight to provide an update and answer any questions that you may have.
Welcome again.
Thank you. Good evening, trustees. In the past month, we have seen interest rates rise a little bit from where we were on February 9th. The savings are still very good, probably in about the 1.1 to $1.2 million range. They were about 1.3 million when I was here in February. We have about 30 days left yet before we can lock in interest rates. If the board moves forward with the resolution this evening, one of the next steps will be to meet with the rating agencies, update the district's credit rating, finalize the disclosure document that goes out to investors. That's the preliminary official statement that's in your package. And then right now, our target date is April 11th to be able to sell the bonds and lock in the interest rates. Happy to answer any questions you have about the documents in the package or the process from here on out.
What do you think the interest rate's gonna look like in 30 days? I don't know, but my Mission Federal keeps going up,
I
so.
wish I knew. Tomorrow, there's a jobs report numbers that come out tomorrow, non-farm payrolls. That'll help provide some direction. Everyone's kind of waiting to see what the Federal Reserve's next action is, how big the interest rate increase will be at their next meeting. I think the market got a little ahead of itself in January, thinking that inflation had kind of slowed and was maybe going the other direction. And then we had the really strong jobs number at the end of January, and we've kind of, rates basically did a U-turn. We're not quite as high as we were at the beginning of January, a little bit below that. That said, interest rates dropped today. So I think we have a lot of volatility ahead through April 11th and probably beyond. So it's going to be just a little bit dependent on what news comes out, what Fed governor is speaking, how hawkish they are about inflation and raising interest rates. But I think we're going to have a little higher rates for a little bit longer than maybe we were all hoping for.
But we still save some money.
But that said, we're still, if at these interest rates, if rates hold, over $1 million in savings to the taxpayers. That's about over 10% on a present value basis. So that's still, we're talking double digit, 10%, savings percentages, $1 million back in your community's pocket. Those are very good numbers. So we look at the minutia of interest rate movements, but still saving your community quite a bit of money by even at these rates of refinancing.
So what you need from us is a resolution to be ready to move, right?
Correct. And if something happens between now and April and we look at the market and say, you know what, this, the savings have dropped to a level we don't think it's appropriate to move forward, we can always wait and, see what happens. Maybe in the fall might be a better time, but knock on wood, things have at least stabilized the past few days.
Okay. Any questions? May I hear a motion to adopt resolution 23003? Authorizing the issuance and sale.
Motion to adopt.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. And I'll call for the vote, if that's okay.
Ellsworth,
Yes.
Liker,
Yes.
Lopez Aguino,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Quinones.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you for looking out for us. security assessment and safety training. Recognize Superintendent, Assistant Superintendent Rigolata.
Hello again. Good evening, President Ellsworth, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Espinosa, staff members, exec team, and community. Back in October, the board approved a security assessment and training agreement with TBR Consulting. Glenn Norling from TBR Consulting is here tonight to provide everybody with an update.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to speak with you again this evening. So what I wanted to do tonight is give an overview of kind of where we started and where we've come to this date to it, and kind of our walking this journey together, if you will. So as Rigo said, back in October, we basically responded to what the district's request was. And initially that request was to conduct 16 different facility assessments, security assessments, comprehensive assessments of those facilities, which we have completed now. In addition to the assessments, we also begin on training. So training, active assailant training for the spectrum of the entirety of the district employees. We've actually started that training, in-person training this week. We did 5 training sessions this week, as well as additionally recommending and prioritizing critical next steps for additional training. So that was kind of the initial request from the district that we responded to. And an overview for the project, these things are very much interrelated between training and things like that. So if you look at the pyramid we look at here, we consider in doing the assessments and the training, the environment, how the environment affects you around here. And I'm talking physical environment, I'm talking about socio-economic environment, everything like that that contributes to it. We talk about the physical facilities. That's part of that physical assessment. We look at the plans, the safety plans, the processes for how do we do lockdowns? How do we do other emergency type of behaviors and responses and things like that? How do we integrate technology with those plans and processes? There's some great advances in security and safety technology that we can take advantage of. Some of it might be a little bit too cutting edge for us really to rely on. I like to think about things that are proven. I do like to embrace new technologies and things like that, but I think we need to do that somewhat conservatively. In addition to that, we also want to talk about community partnerships and how we can leverage community partnerships, leverage relationships with not only our school community, but public safety agencies and other agencies out there, that we're all part of that complete security and safety type of package. And then look at integrated training. How do we change policies, integrate technology, and then let our employees and let our staff, or your employees and your staff, know how to take advantage of these new processes. And if we change the process and we don't tell the employees how to do it, we're not really doing anything. We're not really improving. So that's kind of how we holistically approach this. From the assessment standpoint, specifically, we look at 3 primary areas. As you see here, everybody in education loves a Venn diagram. So we look at the environment, we look how that intersects with the processes, and we look how that intersects with the facilities. And we try to identify that little sweet spot you see there in the middle. And each of these areas has multiple subordinate layers. So as we look at from a comprehensive facility assessment standpoint, we look at over 500 different elements in a dozen different categories at each of the facilities. We have completed all those 16 assessments. We did that in November and December of this last year. And then integral to all that is prioritizing recommendations for each of the sites. And I don't know if you've had the opportunity to see some of the documents, but there is a variety of recommendations made in each of those facility assessment documents. We talk kind of immediate, simple, quick, relatively inexpensive type of things as perhaps a quick fix addressing some, but we also look long range. So we have kind of that immediate, medium and long range type of plans where we know that the true solution is a long range programmed funding type of solution, but immediately we can do this to address that. Because what I don't want to do is provide a recommendation that's only, you need 5 years to fix this issue. And that's not acceptable. It's something we can address immediately. So all our assessments actually go through and provide prioritized recommendations for that. And we make recommendations at the school site level as well as the district level. So we've provided reports on each of the facilities, as well as for the district, as well as for the district safety plan recommendations for that as well. That's all part of that assessment package. And we as we conducted the assessments at each of the sites, we look at the sites during the day. We look at the sites after hours as well to see how that environment around changes and how that affects the school. We look at what the staff emergency process is, what their procedures are, what training each of the staff has received. That kind of led to our first sessions of training this week. And then we look at all those different environmental impacts to the site. As part of that whole process, the initial request, and the thing we did, we integrated district staff. So Franco accompanied me in all of our assessments. So he's now got a package on how can we do our own future self-assessments to understand the basics of how we do that in the future for additional facilities as you look at the facility master plan for planning new facilities and things like that. And all those, of course, included the summary report with all those observations and the prioritized recommendations. So that's our overall assessment methodology. And then on the training aspect, we have 3 different items that are included in the training aspect. We're actually working on the second one right now. As you see, we have 20 1-hour sessions programmed at each of the 16 sites, which leaves an additional 4 training sessions. We'll figure out how we want to actually establish those. But these are 1-hour training sessions. I think we found out this week I've got to rip through my material to get there in an hour. So sometimes they're better than that and others, but we also have time for questions afterwards. And we've actually seen, I think we've seen significant amounts of questions and things like that from the sites, almost to be another hour for each of those trainings. So I think that's been very productive trainings through that. So we're doing that this week. We're doing some more next week. I come back in April to do some additional training, and then we'll schedule the final sessions after that. So that's kind of the first step. It's kind of the first touch point to get everybody on the same baseline. From there, I'm putting together a 1-hour webinar that's going to be available to all the employees and all the employees' family as well, because this is not just within the school district. This is our community. This is our families and everything like that. So I'm making that available to all family members free of charge at all. The requested date for that is the 1st of May. So if we have these continued touch points, and then from there, we're also going to be conducting a 3-hour tabletop exercise, which will be comprised of executive management from the district, as well as public safety members out there. We'll walk through a couple different scenarios of, say, something happened at one of our schools. What are we going to do? And then I really look at partnering with not only Incline Beach, Imperial Beach. Incline Village is actually outside of Tahoe where I live. I always correct myself for that all the time, but work with Imperial Beach Police Department as well as San Diego. So we do have 2 different agencies depending on where your schools are. So I do want to make sure we include both of those agencies as well as the local fire and emergency medical agencies there too. So that's something that's a 3-hour tabletop. We sit around the table, we provide the scenarios, and we have great discussion about understanding that, looking at how the district is modifying policies or procedures and things like that. So the local public safety agencies understand that and they can integrate that into their planning as well. So that's kind of the comprehensive package as far as the training goes. So I do want to share some of the results of the physical assessments, but I do want to caveat that by saying that I don't want to get into too much detail. Of course, I could get into very, very high level of detail, but when you start talking about results of facility assessments, you get into detail and you reveal vulnerabilities. And I do not want to do that. So we'll talk to those things, and obviously you have the ability to take a look at the reports and things like that in detail if you want to get into any of those things. But I do want to touch on a few areas and stuff, things like that I want to highlight, primarily the things I see. So we look at different fencing. You guys have some great fencing. You have some great gates. You have some areas that are perhaps not quite as robust, if you will. So we have recommendations at each of the sites for, perhaps certain areas where we want to look at reinforcing fencing, perhaps change to how some of the gates are structured and things like that. Primarily, one of the things I've seen in several different locations is protection against vehicle intrusion, whether intentional or unintentional. If somebody has a medical episode in a vehicle or something like that, we want to make sure that playground areas are protected from something accidentally happening. So we talk about ways to actually reinforce some of those particular areas. So that's something we see quite frequently in schools around the country trying to produce. We don't necessarily think about that sort of thing. There's a whole variety of solutions out there. From the technical terms, they're called bollards. They're generally very expensive, but it's also something where you can put a rebar reinforced concrete bench that can be welcoming. You can put a large piece of decorative granite rock there. There's a whole variety of solutions like that can actually solve that issue without necessarily spending, something that is purpose built, like you see the red balls outside of Target. Those things have that same function. So that's one of the things we've seen at several sites. We've talked a lot about providing additional emergency resources at the sites, whether it's stop the bleed kits, whether it's other type of emergency resources. The district is always already working on the emergency cards for the classroom as kind of a handy thing, reference point for the teachers if they have a variety of different emergency issues, how to deal that. It kind of helps prompt the mind with, okay, you can have these 27 different things that happen. So here's a little bit of reminder of what you need to do. Here's the numbers you need to call. Here's all those points of contact you need. Two simple things like we talked about how the beautification of the schools and creating that welcoming environment and things like that. Well, you can also do a variety of things visually, projecting a security focused posture. Not turning it into a jail or a prison or something that looks like that, but you can with some key signage, with motion sensitive lighting and things like that, you can project a security posture that's positive. It's a great thing for the community. And it also is something that will, deter some people that are looking at it to see if there is a focus on security. If you don't see that, then you start looking harder to see at those vulnerable spots. And so that's another thing we've considered. We also talked about surveillance and specifically surveillance technology. Technology these days and in cameras and analytical capabilities within cameras is significantly different than the, if you will, the old school version of somebody sitting in front of a monitor that's broken up into 27, 28 little squares that you can't even really see more than pixels in, and stand there and sit there for 8 hours, and we expect them to tell you when something bad is happening in one of those little quadrants. It just doesn't happen that way. There's a lot of analytical technology that can do that for us these days. Can detect something that looks like a weapon coming onto the campus, can detect a car in a wrong space at a certain area of time and things like that. So there's a lot of technology opportunities there from communications technology. How do we launch into a lockdown? Where can you launch a lockdown from? Do you have to go back to the office, to the phone, to do this, to do the all call? There's a whole variety of technology options out there that we basically are in discussions of here, what's going to be the best one of those? What will fit with all these other things? So additionally, we talked about training. The training is a huge aspect of it, training the employees, staff, educators. At some point, I'd love to do some training with students. There's an appropriate way to do some of that, to introduce some critical thinking, critical incident type of reactions with students. There's curriculum out there that does that. So that's something I always look to expand that. And also expand our partnerships with the local public safety agencies. Get our officers, deputies into the schools as much as we can, get them familiar with the areas, get them familiar with the staff and all those type of things. So expanding those partnerships and expanding partnerships within the community. And we talk about suspicious activity reporting. There's a very important aspect that's from the schools, the students, as well as the community that can report these issues. And this is really how we get from responding to these incidents that I end up talking to your staff about a lot to preventing them, which is really our ultimate goal. So I did want to talk, just touch finally on a couple different things specifically for the district. As I mentioned, the emergency reference cards, we ordered those, I want to say back before winter break, before holiday break in there. So that's something that's on the way in. We've had several discussions about different emergency alert notification systems. The one system we've had specific discussions on is a system that's called Centegix. It's essentially, if you recall the old program Life Alert, I've fallen and I can't get up type of bracelet you wear. This is a very similar type of system to that. It allows anybody on campus, doesn't require Wi-Fi, doesn't require cellular signal, and it gives everybody an ability around campus to either request some assistance, having an issue themselves, or having something that affects the entire campus. So that's some discussions we've been talking about, systems like that, to a very robust, suspicious or concerning activity reporting platform. Awareity is one of the platforms that I happen to actually think is one of the best ones out there. But collecting those informations, collecting those data points so we can take somebody who is potentially on a pathway towards violence and get them some help, get them off of that pathway. We've talked some about reunification planning. I think that's another area for growth and improvement, establishing a plans for if we have an incident, how do we reunify students with their parents? There's a lot that goes in behind that. To establishing a threat assessment team. How do we take information about a student that's perhaps having issues, and how do we look at that in a multidisciplinary way? How do we have a team that can have an established policy, and how we can actually look at those and how we can actually get that student some help? So that's another one of those aspects that affects a lot of things in the whole process here. These are really all very much interrelated, I will say. We talked quite a bit about integrated technology from motion sensitive LED lighting, which is fairly simple, to alarms and duress systems, video surveillance. We need to make sure we're communicating, mass notification systems, these reporting platforms. Talked about other more simple things like potentially magnetic access control or electronically accessed or controlled gates and things like that. One thing I did want to touch on specifically is the Legacy the Resident program here, developed essentially out of the old Fire Watch, because our fire alarms did not communicate directly to the fire department. There are a variety of schools, most of the schools, that have a resident there. There are some very dedicated residents out there that are very passionate about the schools that they went to, that they live at, and things like that. However, this program is, we're putting people in a position that they're not really equipped, trained. We're not providing them the resources for it. We've had some of the resident homes, the residents have passed away. The home has been passed down to other family members. And as I went and toured around the campuses, there's a couple of the residents that there was not really a clear explanation of who's actually in the house right now. I believe this is a huge liability for the district. So my recommendation is that the district actually move away from that. And I understand that's caused some significant impacts potentially, but I think this is really something, what the expectation of what they can do as the district is not what they're able to do based on what they're trained, capable, everything like that. And I do really, I'm concerned about that from a liability perspective. If there's some sort of an encounter there, that a violent encounter will occur, and that's just not going to go well. So I'll put that out there just to start having some thoughts about the resident program towards the future, and certainly have your discussions about it. You know my opinions on it as well. And then I'll certainly provide some additional to that as you want to have those discussions. And of course, moving forward, additional training. We're going through the training process. I think we're tweaking our process because we want to make sure that we're addressing questions from each of the sites. I think we've gotten some great feedback this week from the trainings. And I think as we continue to expand those, we want to make sure that those are integrated and build upon each other each time. And again, then just finally, just building and expanding the current partnerships related to public safety, related to security, and related to the community in regards to security. And I've probably talked way too long for what I have. So thank you very much for your time. What questions do you have for me tonight? That was a lot of information very quickly.
Well, I personally need to digest some of this. But thank you very much for your work, and thank Franco. I guess you're going to be taking over now, right? Any questions?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Franco, for stepping every step with this highly qualified gentleman. The board took action and brought this forward in a time, and it's still scary out there. So thank you so much for the presentation tonight. The things that you have outlined for us tonight, and some of the things that you didn't. And we needed this. Our district needed this, and it's not just because of the year, it's because of the work that we need to ensure that all schools are safe, students are safe, and staff know that they are safe and what to do in an emergency or a questionable activity in and around the school. So I did read some Twitter responses about your training this week and how effective they were, and some didn't even know they had the question when they were taking the training. And one said, well, I didn't even know I had that question until it was right there. And so, and what to do. And I went through this kind of training, I don't know, 20 years ago, but technology is not like it is today. In where you outline, there's different ways to communicate out by a staff or school or district. I'm really curious in how our superintendent's going to pull all that together. And in our day, we had a big top foghorn thing. Looks like, I don't know, World War II thing. So I don't imagine him doing that, but that's how much technology has changed. Yeah. So I appreciate the work and the training that's going on, and appreciate the fact that you're training our staff, because eventually they will be on their own and have to identify these areas. So, and thank you for your work. I look forward to having you back again. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Until next time.
Thank you very much for your time.
Marlene. I'd like to recognize Director Laura Ortiz to approve the pupil transportation plan. Oh, there you are.
Good evening, President Ellsworth, trustees, and Superintendent Espinosa. Buenas noches a todos. For Assembly Bills 181 and 182 that require local educational agencies to develop a pupil transportation plan, I'd like to present a brief synopsis of the pupil transportation plan and the request, and I'd like to request for its approval. The pupil transportation plan was developed with the input of educational partners, prioritizing home to school transportation for TK through the 6th grade and homeless and unduplicated students. By unduplicated students, it means that each pupil is counted only once, even if the pupil meets more than one of these criteria, which is English learners, free and reduced, are eligible for free and reduced lunch or reduced lunches, meals, and or foster youth. With having developed the pupil transportation plan, our district will be eligible to receive up to 60% of home to school transportation costs. This does not include capital expenses. This document is a living document that will, as the plan is improved and reviewed and audited, it will be revised, and every year it should be brought to the board for review and approval. And this needs to occur before April the 1st or by or April the 1st.
Okay.
We had several input sessions, opportunities. One of them was in our transportation department, specifically with our transportation staff. They have a very particular perspective because they are the service providers. And also we had another opportunity in person with the district LCAP on January the 30th, where we actually got some parent input as well there. And then we sent out surveys to, again, the transportation staff, all staff, certificated and administrators, parents, and students. And then we had the opportunity last board meeting to have a public hearing. On the plan that you have before you, one of the last pages, I have the number of responses, but I did not put anything on there because we were still collecting responses. But here are the final number of responses for their surveys. We also received comments and input from our other educational partners, MTS, and also the San Diego Air Pollution Control District. From MTS, they said they didn't have any comments to provide, but they were very thankful that we reached out to them. And from the SD Air Pollution Control District, they also said they don't provide transportation planning services, but they're very supportive of transit in general and youth opportunity passes to help students access school via public transit. And also on their website, they have posted that they have opportunities for us to apply for grants. And in particular, those grants, one of them would be for electric buses. So I wonder if you have any questions.
Questions, comments? I think we might be ready to hear a motion to approve the pupil transportation plan.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second the motion.
Thank you. Any? No, call for the vote, please.
Ellsworth,
Yes.
Liker,
Yes.
Lopez Aquino,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Quinones.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much, Director Ortiz. Second interim financial report. Assistant Superintendent Lara.
Good evening, President Ellsworth, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Espinosa, exec team, staff, community members. I think I counted 17 steps over here, 17 here, 17 back. I'm getting them in today, so I'm feeling pretty good. Oh, wait a minute.
I'm sorry, we have a small issue.
Okay.
Multi-factor authentication.
Are you able just to download it?
Mm.
Nope. See your
You're all
password?
gonna see my code number. now.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rigo.
Fine.
Blame Jen Oliveira.
Oh, to view the slideshow or presentation?
I tried to put it in the slideshow and it's not letting me. I don't know if I don't have access. I can try to, let me see what viewing options I have.
Open an app, if you click on viewing.
I'm sorry?
If you click on viewing, you can select open in app. It's not doing anything.
It's not letting me.
Okay, so we will, as educators, we have to be flexible at times and adjust to what is in front of us. And I'm going to do that. And so will Director Ryan as we continue. So the next, are you able to click on the next slide, Amy? Perfect.
Is it not even responding to the clicker?
No.
I don't know, Rigo. I opened this in the link that you sent me. So do you just want me to do the
Oh, there we
slides?
go.
Okay.
Yes. All right, so let's get started. So tonight is our second budget update of the fiscal year. The second interim financial report is based on fiscal activity through January 31st, 2023, and identifies changes to the adopted budget. I don't know if I did that or you did. Did I do that? All right, there we go. I have reviewed the annual budget cycle a few times now, but it's always good to revisit and hear it again. So like I mentioned, we are updating the budget this year. That happens continuously throughout the fiscal year. And that's because we receive new information throughout the year. So what we're presenting today is based off the information that we have now. The next time we come to the board and present is based off new information again, and we'll provide an update. So the fiscal year begins on July 1st each year and goes through June. There are two opportunities, like I said, to update the budget. The first time was in October, the end of October, and we came to the board. We presented that to the board in December. That's the first interim. Tonight is the second interim, and that is information again to the end period through the end of January 31st, 2023. And every March, like we are doing now, we come to the board and provide that update. In January, we also have the governor's budget proposal, and that information that we're receiving at that time, that is preparing us for the next fiscal year. So the second interim report ending in January, that is an update of the current budget, but we're also now looking ahead to work on the next year's budget. In May, the governor updates his original proposal in January, and then we update our budget again based off of new information. We come back to the board in June to adopt the budget. We close the books. After we do that, then we get going the cycle again and start working on the first interim report. So the annual budget cycle, it's easy to refer back to and look at, well, what's happening in December, what's happening in May. But if there's the one thing that I really would like the board to just always keep in mind is that we're continuously updating the budget. And that's always based off new information. That new information may be economic, it may be new proposals coming from the governor. It may new information within our district. We project enrollment each year. Sometimes that enrollment is even less than we project. Other times it may be more, but we update our budget based off the current information. So the good news is that we are fiscally solvent. The projections indicate that we will be able to meet our financial obligations for the remainder of this year and the next 2 fiscal years, making us fiscally solvent. Therefore, the district will file a positive certification of the second interim financial report. That is our transition slide.
Good evening, President Ellsworth, trustees, Superintendent Espinoza. Now for the most exciting part of the evening, if your favorite subject in school is math, this is your time. All right, so just a reminder about unrestricted and restricted funds. I know we've talked about them a lot, but again, a reminder doesn't hurt. So restricted funds, they have deadlines we have to spend by next year, for example, or maybe we have 5 years to spend those funds. Sometimes we have to write plans and stick to those plans for those restricted funds. They're limited on what they can be used for. We have a lot of funds, for example, that can only be used for learning recovery. And there's a whole bunch of legal requirements that come with them. You can only spend so much on administrative costs. Unrestricted funds, on the other hand, we have a wide discretion how we use them. We pay almost all of our teachers with unrestricted funds, our custodians, admin, secretaries, most of the administrators in the room. That's also unrestricted funds are where we keep our reserves as well. And there's no timeline to unrestricted funds. In this chart here, you'll see both our unrestricted and restricted revenues. In a normal year, this right-hand side, this local control funding formula would be about 70%. But we've seen in the last few years a lot of one-time funding. So that's skewing that average and bringing that down to be a smaller slice of the pie. This is expenditures. Again, this is also skewed a little bit by one-time expenditures, one-time grants. Normally salaries and benefits would be higher, maybe 80%, but because we have these special one-time funds, you're seeing a lot more here in services and in books and supplies. So this is a chart showing our one-time restricted funds. We've updated the chart from prior meetings to show two new grants that have come through. We have the Arts, Music, Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant and the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant. Why they make these names so long, I don't know, but it's great. It's great news for us. We can leverage these funds to do a lot of great things for students in the classroom. You can see we've received about a total of $38 million, and we've either spent or encumbered $23 million. So we've done a lot of things with those funds. We have about 15 million left, and plans for those funds include continuing to fund our learning acceleration tutors, our behavior intervention assistants, social workers. We're also using these funds to pay our nurses and health techs, and for incentives this year to make sure we incentivize substitutes to come to our classrooms, to come to our classified positions as well. We're back to just looking at unrestricted funds now. And what this shows you is the differences between the first interim report here and the second interim report in the middle. First interim is a big change from adopted budget. So last time this slide was millions of dollars in differences. Now we're just talking about a $500,000 change. There's just minor adjustments. We look at salaries and adjust for maybe we have positions that didn't get filled, so we have some savings, so we reduce the budget. So things like that. You'll see another update to where we're at with the budget when we bring estimated actuals forward to you in June. So now we're going to look ahead. We are required to forecast not just this year's budget, but the next 2 years as well. And the reason for that is the state requires districts to show that we will pay our financial obligations for the next 3 years. You know, it used to be that school districts could just do 1 year and then a lot of them went bankrupt. This was like 30 years ago. And so the state established this new system where let's do 3 years instead of just 1 year planning. So in order to do that, though, we need to have some assumptions like what's going to happen in the next couple of years. So that's what you're seeing on this slide. We've included the governor's projections for an 8% increase to our LCFF funding for next year, and then 3.54% in the second year out. We've included our demographers' projections for declining enrollment. I want to highlight that we're expecting a loss of 281 students next year, and the year after that 254. That's a total of 535 students and $7.2 million less funding. We've also included the retirement rates because we have to contribute to our employees' future pensions and make up as well for the unfunded liability that the state has in those two programs. We've included increases for special education costs, for health and welfare, and we've included the expiration of those one-time funds. We are still on unrestricted funds, and this slide would normally animate a little bit for you, but I can explain it. These are the 3 years. And at the bottom of each year is our unrestricted ending balance. So we're sitting at about $34 million this year. And then next year we have a little bit of a surplus. So our ending balance goes up. And then the year after that, we have a deficit. So then the ending balance goes down. There's a little more to the story though. So currently in our current year, we have about $35 million in ending fund balance. What you're not seeing here are the labor agreements that you adopted in February. And the reason for that is the second interim report cuts off at January 31st. And the board adopted these labor agreements in February. So, but we did include them here on the next slide. So again, that ending fund balance of $34 million. Out of that, we expect a little more than $17 million will be needed to pay for those commitments we made to our labor partners. We have our 5% reserve, which is $6.5 million. And then we have some planned spending as well that you see below those two categories.
So although we have a positive certification, we do have challenges that we're addressing, as Director Ryan just shared. Declining enrollment is impacting our revenue. It's projected to impact it by about $3.5 million a year in revenue the next couple of years. Our ADA is still far below our pre-pandemic percentage of 94%. And deficit spending will increase once we see the impact of the salary and benefit settlements that you'll see at during our next report when we adopt the budget. This is not an enjoyable slide to show, but it is our reality, and it's our declining enrollment since 2015-16, which is about approximately 1,700 students since 2015-16. It's a 29.5% decrease. It's a 39% projected drop from 15-16 to 24-25, which is the end of the dotted lines that you see there. Those are the projections. Again, we've talked about the impact on revenue, which is approximately $3.5 million the next 2 years. As has been discussed before, it's decreased for lower fertility rates, the cost of living in California. This is not just impacting South Bay Union School District, but this is definitely impacting all of the school districts throughout California. We are all addressing this challenge. We're all working through this challenge. Again, it's not just specific to our district, but again, it is our reality along with many other school districts' reality. And I think this is not going to animate, so I might have to bump into the next one. But before I do, I shared this slide with the board last time we met, and it's translating percentages to actual dollars for our school district and the impact that declining enrollment has on revenue. So the governor's January proposal is a cost of living adjustment increase of 8.13%. That's a nice percentage to see, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're receiving an 8% increase in revenue. So what you see there is the 22-23, our current fiscal year, our funded ADA, again, connected to enrollment, is 4,447. The amount of dollars that we receive per ADA is 13,309. That's this current fiscal year. And you see our total LCFF funding being a little bit over $59 million. Now, what you'll see in the next slide is now the impact of declining enrollment for the next fiscal year and the 281 projected decrease. Now our funded ADA is lower. Our dollars per ADA, though, it is higher due to that COLA, and it's over $10,000 per ADA, which equals an increase of about approximately $720,000 for next school year. But that is not 8%. That's approximately 1.2% increase in revenue. And if you take into account, I barely see that, but the fixed costs average about 3% a year each year. So water bills, step and column, utilities, all those we project usually on a year-to-year basis to increase approximately 3%. So again, this is showing us the impact, again, of declining enrollment, a theme that we are going to have to, it's a reality, and it's a theme that we have to continue to work through and address. So next steps include facilities master plan in April. And the reason we added that here in our next steps is because the facilities master plan will be talking about the needed improvements throughout our facilities. But with that comes a cost. And we'll be sharing that with you in April. The governors may revise for the following fiscal year. Our estimated actuals and the adopted budget will happen in June. Revisiting the key takeaways for tonight is first and foremost is that the district is fiscally solvent. Regarding the budget cycle, it's an ongoing process. It's always updated and it's always based off new information. And declining enrollment, as I just shared, has a big impact on our district revenues and projected to have an impact moving forward. And that's what we have for tonight. Thank you. For any questions?
No, you'd have.
All right. Thank you for your report and your team's work. You're always coming back to us and giving us our actuals and what we can expect. So knowing when you're coming and what you're going to be talking about when you do come, it always helps me to understand what you're sharing, like this evening and what I read in the board docs. So, and looking forward to the next year and the next year in regards to enrollment. So I just want to thank you for your work in your department's work. Thank you.
Yes. As difficult as it is. Well, we, as you say, we know what it looks like, so we know what to do. We hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Yes, we need a motion, not emotion, but a motion. May I hear a motion to authorize the submission of a positive certification for the second interim?
For the financial report of 2022-23. I so move.
Second. Thank you. I'm going to call for the vote.
Ellsworth,
Yes.
Biker,
Yes.
Lopez Aguino,
Aye.
Medina,
Yes.
Quinones.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Executive Director Melissa Griffith, to fill us in about Thank you.
Good evening, President Ellsworth, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Espinosa. Tonight, I'm asking for your approval of Resolution 23-002 to decrease the number of classified employees due to lack of work and or lack of funds as recommended by sites and departments based on the projected 23-24 budgets.
May I hear a motion?
I move.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments? Call for the vote?
Ellsworth,
Yes.
Biker,
Yes.
Lopez Aguino,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Quinones.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
We are on to the consent calendar. May I hear a motion?
Motion.
Thank you. Second?
I second the motion.
Let's vote, please.
Ellsworth,
Yes.
Biker,
Yes.
Lopez Aguino,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Quinones.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Future agenda items, follow-up. I'd like to recognize Superintendent Espinosa.
Thank you, President Ellsworth. We have two items that are coming back from our last board meeting. The first is Trustee Lopez Aguino's item. Aguino. Sorry. And I want to make sure that we took this down correctly before the board has a discussion. What we have is a desire to survey district families to determine housing costs, access to resources, and to identify any connection to declining enrollment. Is that correct, Trustee Lopez?
I
Aguino?
think it's clear that the housing costs are a factor to declining enrollment. So I'm not sure if we need to identify any connection, right? I think the connection is very obvious. And then it's not about housing costs, right? It's about the housing needs of our families. And I think I would actually like to make an amendment if possible to not only include the families in our district, but also the staff. And the reason that I think this is so important is because we've been hearing a lot about under enrollment and the low student achievement. And it's like before the pandemic, we were already in a housing crisis and things have been blown out of proportion. Most of the families in our district, I can say, are one rent increase away from not being able to afford to live in their home anymore. So we look at our budget projections and we want to think about the next 3 years. We want to make sure that our families can still live here for the next 3 years. And currently with the tenants who have, or folks who are renters, who have like statewide protections, right? Their rent is allowed to go up 10% every year. I just got a notification on my phone earlier today where like a 3-bedroom house here in Imperial Beach goes for $4,000 a month. A 10% rent increase would be a $400 rent increase. And I think that if we can gather data from our district, from the families and even the staff, the teachers and the classified employees, it would really help us gather data to be able to advocate for our families. Because I know we can't pass a rent control ordinance, right? We cannot put protections against evictions, but we can definitely work with our local governments in order to provide them that information and help make an argument for why this is necessary. Like we just approved like the best contract that our teachers have ever had, from what I understand. And there's no amount of rent increase, no amount of salary increases that we're gonna be able to provide that are gonna keep up with the high cost of rent. So, you know, next time we're gonna have to, like, we just gave them the best raise ever, and they still probably can't afford to pay the rent. So I'd be curious to know, like, from the people who work in our district, how many of them are homeowners versus renters? How many of them are rent burdened, right? The federal government says that anyone who's paying over 30% of their income is rent burdened. And I'm pretty sure that most of the families, the majority of the families in our district are rent burdened. And there's such a huge impact on student achievement, right? If your mom and dad are both working all day, 2 jobs, how are they gonna help you succeed in school? How are they gonna help you with your homework? So I think that it'd be very important to be able to figure out a way to get some information about the challenges that our families are having in regards to housing and how that's impacting their students.
Okay, thank you very much. So I will just turn it over to the board and for discussion.
How do you envision using this information if you were to get it?
I think it would be great for us to be able to partner with our local elected officials in order to make an argument for the need for these types of protections.
So
and
advocacy,
Yeah, it would help us do advocacy. And I think like we can do that here in the local level, but even like statewide, like I've just learned recently that the school board members are the largest group of elected officials in the entire state, right? We could be advocating to the governor to make sure that there's stronger rent control and stronger protections from evictions.
so from local to state, you envision using this information, okay?
Yeah.
Ideas, questions?
And so this would be conducted through like surveys online and that, how would you envision?
Yeah, because some of this information would be confidential and we may not get it. So I'm not sure how we would go about collecting information.
What would be a secure way that we could do that?
And some of this information already exists, so it would just be, somebody on staff being able to access that information. But then we would definitely, if the board decides that this is something that they would like to pursue, then we would have to come up with a plan on how we would collect that information. At this point, as staff, we haven't thought that through yet, because the board hasn't decided that this is something that they want to pursue.
Well, also, what kind of impact do you imagine collecting this data would have on a staff member?
All our staff are busy doing, all their duties that they're assigned to do on a daily basis. So anytime, that the board wants us to look at something that we don't normally look at, it's going to have an impact. How much it has an impact, I'm not sure. I can't say at this point. But to Trustee Lopez Aguino's point, and we heard earlier today from Assistant Superintendent Lara about our declining enrollment. So is it something that we need to look at based on our declining enrollment? Maybe. And then I think the key question would be, and again, I'm just thinking about it as I'm trying to answer the question here. The key question would be, is there something that we can do about it? I appreciate being able to advocate, not only at our local level, but possibly at the state level. As a governance team, we've talked about, we've discussed, possibly advocating for different items. Declining enrollment is something that really hurts us. It really does. And we're going to have to take some very serious steps, in the future, to mitigate the impacts of that on our district.
I just want to add to that. I also noticed that the lowest performing students are those that are homeless, right? And those that are socially and economically disadvantaged, right? So this, not only will this hope, being able to advocate to have stronger protections for renters, and also, like, it wouldn't just be like for the protections, it's also to assess like what are our families' needs. Like, do the families in our district know where to go when they get an eviction notice? Do we currently have relationships with other organizations that can provide those services for our families? And if we don't, then what can we do about that?
I think the question on the floor is, do we want to allocate superintendent and staff time to analyze this data that can or can't help us with declining enrollment? The advocacy issues that trustee has graciously shared are real. But as a governance team, the strategies for our community and community members are readily available by school, by teacher, by staff, by district, by website. The city of Imperial Beach has reach out town halls. They just had a rent meeting a week or so ago to talk about renters' rights and what to expect going forward. The city has rallied around advocacy for our community and keeping people in their homes. And but as far as the governance team and what is being requested now is, do we want to allocate our superintendent and staff's time to a project that will take him off his course of work. Getting our kids in the seat and bringing up our test score. So that I think those are two areas that that we need to decide upon. Do we want to allocate staff to this work or keep them working strong in the areas which of focus that we've talked about in the last 10 months? So with that, I'd say I'd like to keep my superintendent focused on the work that we have asked him to.
I'm wondering if this is such a big question that we might check out all the different ways that we can get information and get our school board association, you know, they might know something about this. Not to make this go away, but to do some more investigation. I'm not sure if it's your purview or, I mean, staff, but as a school board, you know, CSBA. Excuse me, I'm tired.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Thank you.
I mean, it would, unless there was a board member that wanted to take on that project,
Yeah.
you know, it would be staff time. We would have to, and again, you know, it's really hard for me to, yes, this would be, you know, another, something else that we have to do, that would have to, you know, be given to a staff member. But it's really hard to argue against, you know, this has an impact on declining enrollment, and declining enrollment has a huge impact on us.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Thank you for using the mic.
Or maybe even, obviously we know that this is an issue and there is data available already, I get, you know, of evictions and things like that, if we were to look into it, but maybe even to more focus on the resources that we can provide for our students, because that, like, if we're gonna do a direct correlation of, like, you know, bodies in the classroom and how they're affected by that, you know, like how do we get that information to our students? So I don't know if doing all the surveys, and I mean, even when I look at, it seemed like how few people answered the surveys for the transportation. You know, I think there's probably a lot of people that might not contribute if it doesn't affect them. And so, or even see the surveys in the first place, I'm not sure, but I mean, just making sure that we have resources to help them. Is this something we could do on the working together, like come up with a more solid plan of how to help our students and our renters?
I like that idea. I think this needs some more discussion, I feel.
Can I just add, we just had a survey, no, like in the beginning of the year, online survey through like Peach Jar, something like that. Does somebody have the numbers of how many people responded to that survey?
Yes, we had about 300, something like that.
So I personally would be happy to take on the project. I think, like you said, I'm thinking of like a 5 to 10 question survey that could be shared through Peach Jar. And I'm sure that people would be happy to fill that out because it does impact so many of the folks in our community. And I could see us, if this is something we can do, like partnering with a group like the Legal Aid Society, who are experts at this type of thing that can help us think of like the key questions that should be in that survey. And then putting it on some sort of online tool like Peach Jar might make things a lot easier.
Okay.
So that's just that's what I could offer, right? I could definitely put some time into this, and that's, I guess, the last I'll say on that.
That would be an okay next step, and then bring it back again for discussion.
Okay, so let me just make sure I understand. So we're gonna have to do some preliminary work around this, of course. So we want staff to look at how to possibly structure something like this. Is that what we're looking at? Or what are we bringing back next time?
Oh, no, we don't have anything yet. Yeah. I like her idea of making sure that, again, people know about all the support that they can get just from our school district.
I guess this is like a needs assessment thing,
Yeah.
right? So like, based on like this initial survey that goes out, then we can think of what are the next steps? Like, if we find out everybody's fine, nobody is struggling to pay their rent, everybody knows their rights, maybe we don't do nothing about it, right? And if it is an issue, then we do advocacy, right? If it turns out that people don't have access to resources or are not aware of their rights, then maybe we do partner with an organization in the future that can provide those things to our parents or to the teachers. So when they can identify a student with that need, they can say, oh, you know what? I know who you should talk to right here. Call this number. So I'm not sure how to put that into
What if we talk about it in our working together session? Would you be okay with it? So we could like get ideas together and see.
I'd be happy to do that.
Do we have consensus on that? That we will talk about it at our working together perhaps? Okay.
Okay, and just to clarify, at this point, staff would not be taking any action. The board would like to discuss this further at working together. Yes? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, our next item on here, trustee Medina requested information on our TOSAs, Teachers on Special Assignment, including job descriptions, duties, and how they support students. We did provide all that information on a Friday update. And I just, trustee Medina, is there anything further, or is there any other requests attached to that?
Thank you for the report and providing the job description for us. I just have a question. In our district, are we using the TOSAs in the support of our students' needs? And how do we know that it is working for them?
I would say that I don't know that we have any specific data. Yeah, I don't know that we have any specific data that's connecting the work our TOSAs are doing to specific student achievement or student support. I mean, generally you can say, and I'll give you an example. I just participated in some work with our equity TOSA at Sunny Slope. And I could say that in general, the work that we're doing around equity would lead to supporting our students. But if you're asking me for specific data, we don't have anything like that. As staff, we can discuss that further and see if there's anything we can provide. And again, when you look at the plan for our TOSAs, I mean, the idea is definitely that they're going to have a positive impact on our students through the professional development that they're providing for our teachers. I mean, that's the idea. But again, I don't know that we have specific metrics. Assistant Superintendent Reichert. But we don't have specific metrics that say, and this is how we know that it's working. I don't know that we have. we'll discuss this further with our staff and then provide some additional information.
Okay, I would be looking for a forward, I don't know, in a Friday update or something.
Thank you.
So we're all good there? Okay, communications from the Board of Trustees.
I'm sorry, you
I'm sorry.
skipped future agenda items. The board can now request one item for a future agenda item.
Oh, I did skip it. I'm sorry. Thank you. Any future agenda items? Hearing none. On to communications from the Board of Trustees. I'll go first. Last week, I guess was it last week? Anyway, it's always a good week to read to kids. So I got to read to a class at Nestor and at Oneonta. I was a little late on their list, but they accommodated me and I had a really good time. It's always really enjoyable to read to a class. So I was reading to a 6th grade class and a 3rd grade class. Then I went to Nikolov for their biggest extravaganza in the evening. Kids came and they were read to in different classrooms, and then they came to the auditorium for activities, food, all kinds of fun stuff. And I was really amazed at how many of the community showed up. It was really, they filled up Nikolov's auditorium. It was wonderful to see. So thank you to the PTA and staff there. And also at Mendoza, they had their science fair last night. And thanks to the PTA and staff there, it was a very good show. We had 3rd grade, and 3rd grade was really, they had a lot of participants. It was wonderful to see it. It wasn't quite as big as it has been in the past, but it was surely big enough. And again, it was wonderful to see the community out. It's just, and the kids, they were wonderful. Okay. Thank you. Anybody?
I also got to read at Nestor, Oneonta, and IB Charter School, which was a lot of fun, and it was nice to be in the classroom. I also was able to go on a field trip, which was, it's nice to see that field trips are back in the schools. So thank you everyone for all that you're doing to continue to move back towards normalcy and getting fun things in our schools again. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam President. It was a very long meeting and very good meeting. Great agenda planning. Thank you, Superintendent and staff, for bringing this forward to us. The presentations from Barry and Bayside were extremely well put together, and I appreciate them and staff coming forward. The update on the LCAP was pretty enlightening, and we appreciate your work in that department. I would also want to give a shout out to our Human Resources Department in the efforts to get everybody that wanted to retire before the end of June and realize the CERP agreement that the board came through for our employees. I counted them up. There are 19 teachers that are retiring at the end of June. I should say certificated staff, because there's a mixture there. So congratulations to our certificated staff for taking advantage of that. First time ever in my lifetime that I ever seen it. And 31 classified positions across the board. It's going to be difficult in the district with a loss of 19 and the loss of 31. And it'll be like a brand new baby, because the people here in these positions here that are retiring have significant years in our district, significant loyalty and commitment to our district. And where they work and where they live, mostly is where they live, is where they work. And they need to be recognized for their years of service to the district and the community in which they serve, which is our children. And it's a sad day for me, but I'm glad I'm sitting here to say, yay, you deserve it. You deserve it. Next week is Legislative Action Week. Since I've been on the board, I have been participating in this week, either virtually or in person. And if I can get my screen up here, which is not happening. There's 3 bills, 2 of which I wanted to bring forward, which was SB 645, the administrator to teacher ratio cap. These are California School Board Association's recommendations and talking points that delegates such as myself who signed up will be talking to our legislators when we go forward. I have 2 meetings already scheduled. So the first one is SB 645, which is administrator teacher to teacher ratio. This really speaks to smaller school districts like ourselves. So what's fair to others is not fair to all. And it's not fair for our school district to be as small as it is to keep at a cap where San Diego Unified is at the same rate. And we can't compare to that. SB 906, this is funding increase to stabilize children that find themselves in court and have to go to say like Polinsky's and go to day school there at Polinsky's, and the teaching that goes on there, if they're there for a week or 2 or 3, that funding and that coursework that they are make themselves available to them while they're at court school is transferable to the district in 88, as well as their academic work. So we'll be advocating for that as well when we go up virtually again next week. So all the work is just not done on a Thursday night, 1 day a month. It happens all day, every day. And I want to thank you for your advocacy for our community and the need for housing. And we don't have the answers, but we certainly have the will. So thank you for your advocacy for our community, and board members, thank you very much and have a good night. And thank you all for coming this evening. Thank you.
I just wanted to express my gratitude for Principal Nelson from Emory. Thank you for hosting the superintendent and myself for a site visit. It was my first site visit as a board member. It's really exciting to be on the campus and have the opportunity to, to observe some of the classrooms. So thank you for that. And I just wanted to add, I am a bit passionate about this housing issue. Right in the middle of the election, my family was evicted from our home here in Imperial Beach. And if it wasn't for the privilege that I have, having a job that pays more than minimum wage, I would not have been able to be in this seat right now. My son would not be in this district right now. We would probably be somewhere like in National City, maybe Mexico. So I saw the impact that it had on my child when we spent 2.5 months in a hotel in San Isidro. Just a few weeks before we were evicted, he was telling me how much he really loved this community. We were here for just about a year in Imperial Beach before we got that eviction notice. And luckily we were able to find a house within the district. And I want to make sure that other families in our district don't have to go through the hardships that we went through. So I just wanted to add that. And thank you everyone for being here such on a very late night. Appreciate it, everyone.
I believe I'm going to do this and say good night to all of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for keeping us company.